This is Morten Reitert from INKISH TV, and we are here over the Skype, which is our new series of films where we're talking to industry leaders from all over the world. And today I have the honor to talking to CEO Michel Hunkeler from Hunkeler in Switzerland. So Michel, a very warm welcome to my little show here.
Thank you, Morten. How are you?
I am good. I was more curious about how you are because you are closer to the epicenter of European coronavirus. Is that something that has influenced Hunkler in any way?
Fortunately, not yet. I mean, of course, we see some influences in times of traveling, especially traveling abroad. But our government is treating this thing, I think, very good.
Yeah.
And allows people, especially companies that are of essential service, to keep on producing. So all our production guys still completely full are producing. Everybody's around. There is some risk people that we had to keep at home. And office people, pretty much everybody is working from home office. And no, we're still in a good situation, let's say that way, but we'll see what's going on.
Yeah. And does that mean that you still have a demand for your products and services despite the global crisis?
Yes, I mean, we see a little bit slowdown that some of the orders are postponed now. You know, mainly doesn't have to do with us because our international service engineer, of course, they cannot travel, but we still have very good service engineers with all our distributors abroad. And as you know, also in Germany, we have our own company, our own guys, and also here in Switzerland, so they can travel to the customers.
Yeah.
But in general, yes, there is some postponements. We see a little bit of slowdown in the order entry, let's say the last 2 weeks. But fortunately, we still have a very good backlog and are still in good shape.
Okay.
So we'll see. We'll see how that situation will develop.
Yeah, that's good to hear. On the other hand, I was very sorry because of the coronavirus forced Drupa to postpone till 21, and that forced you to postpone to 22 with the Hunkler Innovation Days. And I wanted to go to Lucerne in February next year, but I can't. At least not for Hunkler Innovation Days, right?
You're still very, very welcome to come to Lucerne and to visit us, Morten. You know that.
I might take you up on that one because I like that city and I like that time of year actually. So that could be nice. So, Michel, it's good that that you have the backlog. It's good that you don't see any sickness, of course, and also that as you mentioned, that staff and family is in good shape, fortunately, and that's good. I was wondering. One of the things that I think a lot of people are thinking about these days. Do you think that the printing industry and how we operate today, will that return to normal just after the coronavirus, or will this have an impact on the longer perspective of the industry, you think?
Yeah, that's a very good question that we've been discussing. Just actually yesterday we had our management meeting. We were discussing that deeply. I mean, of course, there will be some restructuring going on, unfortunately. We're sure about that especially weaker companies, not only printing companies, but also suppliers of print supplies, of course, also finishing supplies that have been or were already in bad shape or not in great shape before, they will get some damage. We're sure about that. Yeah.
Is that something that you... I mean, nobody can, of course, foresee the future, but is that something that you already now start considering how to adapt to? I mean, when you produce hardware, especially, I know that you also produce a lot of software, but when you produce hardware, I think that the supply chain is a little bit longer. I think that the time to market is a little bit longer. So I guess that you have to react quite early in all the signs that you get from the market. So is that something where Hunkler is in a shape where you can easily adapt to new situations?
Well, our strategy, especially now with the coronavirus, actually, we kept our production full running. As I said, we also purchased many goods. We are in a good situation that we have a good supply chain. Of course, there is some challenges in getting some of the products to produce actually Hunkeler machines then. But anyway, we were still producing, as I said before, to build up really a backlog because we expect large projects still to come. Projects from big companies, but also from smaller companies. And when you look at the projects, we were looking, who are our partners, and we are convinced all those partners we have projects normally are already in the digital market. They already changed from analog to digital, and we are very, very convinced that they will be in good shape. So the products will be gone, and as soon as it's gonna speed up again, we don't want the customers to wait for us, so we're gonna deliver right away. That's why you're building actually some machines on stock. Normally, without the coronavirus, we only make on order.
And when I spoke to you back in at the last Hunkeler Innovation Days, you said to me that the speed of adapting inkjet technology, especially, took a little bit longer time than you anticipated. Is it your opinion that inkjet is now full ahead and there's a huge demand for inkjet devices in the market?
Yes, I mean, for sure there is a big demand and has developed very, very well. I mean, for 2019, Hunkeler has had the best year for the last 30 years. So we were very, very happy about the performance and what went on. And also when we looked at the forecast or at the drupa that's going to happen, of course, we're also in close contact with many of the big printer vendors and stuff. We knew what's going to come out, all that, some already have been announced meanwhile. But yes, I'm sure it has come to a stage where digital printing is ready to go. Of course, there is always the challenge that there are suppliers of the print industry in the world that maybe don't really say the full truth, do some marketing stories about that. And that's what really costs our industry some slowdown. Yeah. Because it doesn't help anybody, if you make wrong promises. Some customers, printers are waiting them for that, and then it's not ready. Yeah. I mean, and this is actually an attitude that Hunkeler doesn't have. Usually when we present something, we're ready to sell, and we don't do any wrong promises. But anyway, coming back to your question, yes, I think the digital inkjet printing market is there also, and yes, we are ready to go.
That's great to hear. As most people are probably aware, Hunkeler has always been focusing on roll-based finishing, and obviously all vendors have roll-based printing devices or bringing roll-based printing devices to market, but there seems to be like a growing interest also for sheet fed-based inkjet systems. Is that something that you are considering entering into that market?
Yes, we are. I mean, we introduced at Innovation Days last year in Lucerne. We introduced the DocuTrim universal cut sheet finishing line, as we call it. And for us, this is a very, very important path. Not only have the continuous feed, but also supply our partners or our customers with solutions, high technology solution, fast solutions in the universal cut sheet unit. And yes, I was very, very eager to see what's going to happen now at drupa. Yeah. Especially as you mentioned it, toner has been there for a long time, but the inkjet, what's going to come new? I mean, we've already heard some announcements, some great announcements now that drupa doesn't take place, which is good, especially from Canon and Indigo, I can think about now. But the question also will be there, what format are we later on going to have? What's the development of SAR3 going to B2, for example, in the inkjet segment, in the cut sheet segment? And I can tell you, we will see a lot of good stuff coming up at drupa 2022, and we further developed our universal cut sheet program, the DocuTrim, and yes, we are actually ready to go also in this segment.
Sounds great. I did an interview with Heiko van Gaal and Jutta Hendricks from Canon a couple of days ago that was published today, and I actually asked them about the B3 format of the new IX series, because I think that if you look at the Indigo machines, they have the B2 sizes. If you look at both Landa and Konica Minolta, they also have like B2 sheets, but as I think they said quite good actually, is that nobody is really, if you look at the finished product, the finished size, maybe the bigger formats are more a legacy of the past rather than what is needed today. So maybe it's about speed, and maybe it's about the finished product rather than the format. Is that, of course, that is something that you take into considerations as well, but do you think that assessment that Canon has is correct, or is it just because they need to sell their machines with the B3 format as it is?
No, I think it's correct. I mean, we never know what's kind of gonna bring out later on. Also, maybe in the B2 format. Of course, I don't know that, but in general, I think most volumes still are in B3 going on, and also to catch up speed and everything, to produce various products. B3 is good. Yeah. We personally believe, especially in the book segment, that B2 will have its place. Of course, we all know Inkjet has a lot of water on a paper, and to handle those big sheets then actually is not that easy. Especially the question will be then, is it inline to the finishing? Is it near line? Whatever. So yes, as I said before, also Hunkeler is thinking about going into the B2 format. And right now B3, of course, is the biggest volume, but I'm sure there's many customers waiting also to have a good solution in B2. I'm definitely sure about that.
Yeah. One of the things that I always liked about Hunkeler's approach to finishing is that you have a very modular build-up of your equipment, so you can basically configure to almost every application and to every output device that you need to work with. Do you think that when you look at, for example, if you look at the cut size, the cut sheets machines in the market, I sometimes think that if you have a cut sheet machine and you, for example, put in a perfect binder in that inline, then the machine becomes a little bit limited because it's then inline only, and the cut sheet machines are way more often used as very, very different devices with very different outputs, where you have roll bases maybe more based on one or a few applications. Can you follow me, and what do you think about that?
Absolutely, I agree. Yes, I mean, also when you especially look maybe also at the price standpoint, I mean, some machines, especially in the toner now, maybe not in Inkjet, but there were also from the price standpoint on to create an interface, to build these two segments together, that costs a lot of money, and if you're going to change the press then, or maybe also change the finishing, just to create such an interface. Is actually quite cost intensive. So yes, we always say from the process security, of course, to keep up the control of the product from the start to the end, it's better to go inline. But both ways have its standings.
Yeah. And that is, of course, something that you may know more about than you can tell, but I think that it's quite interesting, because one of the other things that I also find quite interesting, every time you talk to vendors that produces inkjet devices, initially when you have toner-based equipment, they kind of fight for a smaller part of the market, because they fight over market shares in toner-based, which is still like a very small part of the global value chain. But if you look at inkjet devices and the speed and the quality and the capabilities these machines have, now we see people that are trying to get a chunk of the offset market. I guess that is a huge opportunity for Hunkeler as well.
Yes, it is, and that's exactly why we decided to enter this market. I mean, overall scene, when you look also at continuous feed, I mean, finishing in the perspective of many people years ago maybe was not being as important as a printer is. Of course, the printer is very important, no doubt about that. But the value of having a good finishing solution, a reliable finishing solution, has increased last years. And I think it's the same also with the cut sheet, that the machines are getting faster, higher quality, better, coming to Inkjet then also. And yes, there will be more and more demands coming. Maybe it's not that there yet. Many printers might start having just the press installed. But I'm sure with the time, and with having reference cases out in the world, to seeing, hey, what are the added values of such an inline or also nearline finishing, that's really high automated and technology-wise really stable, then I'm sure there will be many customers also saying, hey, yes, you also need to think about the finishing, you know.
I have always thought that finishing was, at least for the past 10 years, been more important than the print, because I mean, print has a very, very high quality regardless of technology today. So I think it's very much about when a printing company is either focusing on a few applications or having a more commercial printing go-to strategy, then things change, and that is one of the reasons why I'm a little curious about the cut sheet finishing, because if you look at what happened with toner-based, I think that a lot of the vendors in digital, they thought that, okay, now we're going to do mass customization and variable data and all that things. But actually, a lot of the toner-based devices has taken, I think, a quite big percentage, at least in the smaller markets, of what used to be printed in offset machines. So it's been more the short run that has been driving the digital demand rather than the mass customization, in my opinion.
Yes. And of course, also to have variable substrates, right available. This is, I think, is a key that offset never could provide.
Yeah.
Changeover times, and all that. This is a really great value. Yeah. And yes, we are so convinced that the inkjet cut sheet will have its good place in the world and will be a good option to continuous. And the best is, of course, you have both.
Yeah. Both
and we see really many customers, many projects that we also talk with them about over a docu trim. It's a together continuous and cut sheet.
Yeah.
And so this is really going to bring a lot of values.
So you, for example, can have a cut sheet device for covers on a book and then the roll based for the content, right?
Exactly, or doing reprints, but of course inkjet cut sheet machines not only there to do reprints, but yes, as you said, the covers and just to do small round jobs, maybe that you don't want to wait for the whole roll to be finished, let's assume it that way, and so on. So there is so many business cases, you can mix them together, and that's why Hunkeler decided that we also want to actually be a good provider of good machines in the segment of cut sheet.
Great. Now I would like to ask you a little bit, because if you look at the market, we spoke about the opportunities and how great it is, and as a global supplier of finishing equipment, do you see big differences in the demand in, let's say, Asia, Middle East, Europe, Americas, or is it quite even?
Well, I mean, from the tradition on, Hunkeler has been always very strong in EMEA. Of course, we are in Switzerland. This is the center of Europe, and just from the history of it, always been very strong.
That was Copenhagen. No.
Hey, look at the map, Howard. We're gonna discuss that later. But anyway, yes. So Europe for us was always the strongest. But we've seen the last 3 years huge development, mainly in Americas. This is, of course, also EMEA had that. Maybe EMEA was in certain points a bit further developed already in Inkjet, but in US we've had tremendous successes the past 3 years, and last year was just tremendous. And not only large accounts, like that have multiple production sites, it's also smaller customers that really changed from analog to digital, or actually build up their capacity in digital also. And Asia Pacific, we've really felt, I mean, we were very successful, especially the books segment, also in China, for example, with the Generation 8 all over Asia Pacific, also in Australia. We've been quite successful, but we've seen there a little bit of slowdown. But when I look at the project list, I think it's coming again. So yes.
So when you plan your things, what is the time perspectives? I mean, because you talk about the backlogs and you talk about the projects that you can see coming in. Is that often sometimes like 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? How long time do you kind of forecast when you are talking about development of products and services?
I mean, are you talking about developing our products, like our project?
I was more thinking that you say that you look at Australia, you look at Asia, you look at EMA, and you look at the US, and you see the development. Of course, you can see what you have invoiced and sold, but I guess that you also have an idea of what's going to, because you have, I guess you have some kind of ideas of what projects and what presses are going to the market. So I was just wondering what is the perspective time-wise when you go into sales process with a company? Is the selling cycle like 3 months period or 6 months? How was it often in the decision processes of Hunkeler equipment in your opinion?
Well, to bypass a little bit the question, I mean, what I love most is, of course, a spontaneous decision that we haven't expected.
Okay, yeah.
We go into projects and say, hey, what's going on here? We can deliver already in 2 weeks or so, or not deliver or start production, close the deal, have a PO in our hand. But normally, of course, the cycles, of such projects are longer. I would say, I mean, in large projects, some of them take more than 2 years that we've been working on.
Really? Okay, so.
But it's just a decision path, of the customers. Maybe they're not very happy about the development of different products. Maybe also price-wise, they cannot decide if they want to change their habits in all the IT tools and so on. But some are very, very long. But I would say just in average for us, I'd say lead time from the start to the delivery, I'd say is about 3 months.
Okay, so at least you know a little bit about what's going to happen the next 3-4 months from your perspective now, as we speak, right?
Yes.
But that's great.
We hope so.
Yeah, I hope so. Michel, it's been a pleasure to talk to you and get a little insight in the Hunkeler world. As I said to Hans Gut many times, I would really like to come and do some films from your production. I think it must be so interesting to see how you do things. So whenever it's possible, I hope I can get an invitation to come and see you. That would be nice.
Morten, we appreciate what you're doing, so you're always welcome. Let's discuss about that, of course.
Thank you very much, and have a great day ahead of you.
Stay healthy.
Yeah, and you too. Bye-bye.